So in the previous episode, we kind of ended in a cliffhanger, and that was this integrity constraint violation. Now, if you recall, all we did was hit the Add New Customer button without actually typing anything into our form. And as we all know, of course, that is probably not the functionality that you want. You want to be able to come back to the user and say, hey, you forgot to give us a name. Give us a name, otherwise we're going to ignore your request. So let's dive in and see how we can do this with Laravel. So let's switch back to PHP Storm. And right now, we have this customer right here. But we are assuming that the request has name. But we haven't really checked that. So let's add a new layer of validation here. And let's add that here at the top. So how do we validate this request? Let's say our data is equal to request validate. And so inside validate, we're going to pass in an array. And this array will tell Laravel what it is that we're trying to validate. So the first thing I want to do is validate that the name is required. And we do that in this form. So name, which is the input name, right? We see that right here. So we are validating that name is required. And that's it. Laravel actually takes care of everything else for us. It will actually redirect back. It will give us errors. We just need to display those. So let's give that a go and see what it does. Let's go back to Chrome. I'm going to hit refresh. And then I'm going to hit that add customers one more time. And here we go. Now, if you look up here closely, check out what happens when I hit the button. We see that the page goes out. It tries to fetch. Something happens. And then it comes back. And of course, we see that nothing happened. And that is because we are requiring that field. But right now, we're not really giving the customer any feedback at all. That would be the next step. We need to tell them, hey, you forgot to give us a name. Go ahead and put your name in there. All right, so now let's get these errors to show up. So we'll have this errors variable made available to us through Laravel. And then we'll say, give me the first error for name. And go ahead and display that. Back in the browser, I'm going to hit refresh one more time and hit add customers. And there we go. We see the name field is required. But I do see it's kind of down here, kind of difficult to see. So I'm going to bring this up and put it right after that and before the button. I think that's a better place for it. I'm going to hit refresh, hit that button one more time, and there we go. The name field is required. Now, let's surround that with a div so it makes its own line. There we go. The name field is required. So now we're giving back the user a little bit of feedback on what it is. Now, another rule that you may have is that it needs to be at least 3 characters, for example. So let's change that. Back in my customers controller, we are required, but we also need it to be at least 3 characters. And the way you do that is by adding a pipe, and then we could say min:3. So this is telling Laravel the name field is required, and it needs to be at least 3 characters. All right, let's hit save, head back over here, and then we could say add customer, and it says the name must be at least 3 characters. Add customer, and there we go. Now it does add that in. So this is the last thing I wanted to show you. I'll add the link to this in the description below, but just know that if you go to the documentation of Laravel, there is these available validation rules. And these are all of the rules that you can use and you can pipe together. Of course, we've already used required, and we use this min rule to not allow anything under 3 characters to pass through validation. So all of these rules combined will help you validate your forms. So take a look at each of these as you have some time, and I bet you'll find exactly what you need. However, do know that you can add custom validation rules, and we can cover that in a separate video. So as a little bit of an assignment, what I want you to do is I want you to add a second field to our form here for email. And I want you to go ahead and change the migration to add that in, because I want to be able to store the name and the email of our customers. So give that a shot on your own, and then in the next episode, I'll show you how to do it.